Today's podcast is brought to you in part by Supreme Auctions, the only luxury auction company recommended by the Institute. Supreme Auctions is widely recognized as the first auction company to design a program to work alongside and in partnership with luxury real estate professionals and their clients. Go to supremeauctions.com to learn more.
Hi,
Patrick,
Tami.
welcome. Hi.
How are you?
I'm great.
Excited to talk to you.
It is always good to talk to you, Patrick. So let's give our listeners a sense of who you are and how you came to be with Genuine. So give us a little bit of your background and how long you've been in real estate, that sort of thing.
Okay, I'll give you a kind of condensed version because we all have our journeys. So I started in real estate in 2004 after a subpar acting and improv jaunt here in Chicago. I wanted a career where I could make a lot of money and have a flexible schedule. Didn't know that I wouldn't have a flexible schedule as much, because if you're being a top broker, you have to constantly work, as we all know. So I sold new construction and condo conversion projects for probably the first 6 to 7 years with a large brokerage company that's now at Properties Christie's. They're the largest independent here in Chicago. So it gave me a lot of insight into how to market big developments, the big picture of it. And then the market crashed. So I had to learn how to work more with individual buyers and sellers. So I always say I take a big market perspective down to your single family home or buying. And then I moved over to Related Realty. I was their top broker for a couple of years. Then I took over their brokerage division and the sales. So I was traveling between here and New York, Miami, South Florida, and building up a lot of relationships. And then through my kind of contacts with the Institute, started doing more talks to different associations and started to realize that I had a little bit different perspective, and that's why I started my own brokerage.
So tell us about your brokerage and who else is on your team. How do you operate? What's your business model?
So my personal perspective, and I think it's awesome about real estate because you can set it up however you want to. I've always really enjoyed working with individual buyers and sellers. I think Tami, you and I are the same way in that aspect. So it's hard for me I have a business partner and I have 2 other brokers. But I am involved with my buyers and sellers because I think it's critical. I have 18 years experience now on multiple different negotiations. So it's hard to transfer that, in my opinion, to a team member who may be new. So I do that part of the brokerage, and then I have a consulting where I work with a lot of new construction and developments, actually in South Florida in different locations, because of my strong background actually working for a developer, and then also having my own brokerage, and then having done it before for an independent. So yeah, I've kind of built up this brokerage that's more, the catchphrase is boutique, curated. I just really like personal relationships. So, and I think in my perspective, you spend less in marketing because your clients know you and love you, and guess what? They send you people all the time.
That's right.
Like you, we build up relationships and we refer people of great clients we have. So I really like having my own brokerage.
Excellent. And now you've got some other background areas in marketing and management with some big companies. Does that come into play as well, especially as you're interacting with the developers?
You always look back at your history and like, oh God, yeah, I really used that. I worked with a transportation brokerage, which was moving freight all over the country. So it gave me a really kind of great perspective of the back end things of how revenue is generated in tons of cities around the country. And then I worked for Yahoo. Actually, it was hotjobs.com, and then they got purchased by Yahoo. And then I worked for a startup. So I was in the internet space of startups, and it gives me, I think, a stronger knowledge of like the digital marketing, how the message and everything, and how, especially in real estate, it's changed us all online. Those are your first showings. And then I think the background in pharmaceuticals, which was my least favorite job, but what it taught me was you had to detail and you had to go in and talk to clients. And you go through this month-long training where we get flown out to California, and it's intensive, but you have to know you have to have a really deep knowledge of the product you're selling. So I didn't realize this, but when I go to, do a listing appointment, I drive the area, I look and try and find the data. I really want to know, because using my improv background, it's always a different listing appointment. It's always a different buyer. Like none of them are all the same. So you have to have a strong knowledge base, but then be able to work on the fly. And
I think that's great.
Kind of how the background all tails into each other.
And it's a beautiful tapestry of all those different things. And you're absolutely right. It's the combination of technological knowledge, the digital space, the inventory knowledge, and interpersonal skills. That kind of
and I didn't even go
is
into
what we do.
I used to bartend and serve, and where you think like, oh, it's bartend and serve, how many personalities you deal with. But then I always tell people, if they worked in service industry, because we have a lot of people that come from so many different backgrounds in real estate, you can take something. And when we were in restaurants and bars, we had to set up the restaurant. Customers came in, we dealt with the multiple personalities. You wanted to make them feel comfortable. You wanted to have knowledge, upsell them if possible. After they leave, now you want to follow up with them. Now you want to get recommendations on Yelp restaurant. It's very much like real estate. We have to set up our day. It's kind of craziness for a while, dealing with the personalities. Then you have to follow up with people. So you can learn something, I think, a lot of times from, any background.
Absolutely. I think that's brilliant. So let's talk about where you work and what kind of properties you work with. You mentioned condo conversions. My goodness, wasn't that the thing back in the day? And you're in downtown Chicago, right?
Yeah, I live downtown. I've been in downtown Chicago since 1995.
Okay, and what kind of properties do you deal with mostly?
That's a hard thing to say, because I think in our market we have high rises. They can be 1,100 feet tall, townhouses, single family homes, industrial space. But then I was just having this conversation with my business partner, who's from Toronto, that there's no other markets really where you can be at a huge city like ours. And if you're spending $1 million, you could buy a single family home. You could buy a horse farm out in the suburbs. You can buy like a full floor, condo. So there's multiple different, and it's interesting. The realtor headquarters is here. And a lot of the laws for the United States, because we have we have farms, we have, I've never sold a farm. So, but it's primarily,
maybe that should go on the list.
Yeah, primarily high-rise condos, single-family homes and townhouses in kind of downtown area. And then we'll go into this more. I refer out to also the suburbs, but started working with my clients to see the extended value of them, and incorporated that they can be a referral somewhere else in another, and you can make a lot of money from that side of the business.
You can, absolutely. A lot of real estate professionals overlook that side of it. Now, let me talk about a little market reality right now. So you and I both have been through the crash,
right?
And now we're in this world where the market is behaving in crazy ways. But the pandemic really introduced a new dynamic for your market, right?
Oh, yeah.
So tell us about what happened. Tell us about what you saw as the pandemic hit, as it relates to the urban property.
Well, I think that, prior you would have a building in, let's say, at three or 400 units, and you're living in that. And then after the pandemic, even small spaces became like even smaller. And they started like looking at it where we took for granted that we get on an elevator, we go up. but you're touching the front door of the building. You're touching the elevator buttons. And guess what? Hundreds of other people are every day. So it became much more, oh God, I don't know if I want to live in this. In Chicago, we had, I think this is much like many urban markets. New York is the same way. I did this talk, like San Francisco is the same way. In the urban markets, because it's tighter, people are more aware, so they wanted space. And the things that brought people into the city, my daughter was going to NYU, there is no Broadway. There is no the Art Institute of Chicago to, go. These great places that brought people downtown, and restaurants, they were all closed, So it's now starting to come back, and there are great deals. But then we had to be aware of that. But then it shifted the suburbs, which my clients could have offered anything in 2019 on these places. People who lived there 30, 40 years. It's now multiple bid craziness out in the suburbs. And it's also managing with your buyers. You don't want them to overpay. You want them to get a house,
Right.
And I think that having that knowledge, like, okay, maybe we're gonna go over, but like, let's realistically go over. Let's have a reason, And I personally, this is my own, I don't like multiple bid situations, because I've always thought it interesting. Only in our business is the winner perceived as the one who pays the most money. Like, so I don't know if that's necessarily winning.
You're
But
right. It's a different perspective.
Yeah. So I think that I'm very aware of that. I think my clients appreciate it, because I say to them no, which a lot of times we don't, but it builds up a lot of confidence. But then you have people that come to you as an advisor. Hey, we're thinking of going to another place. Hey, we're thinking about this move. What do you think? Hey, we want to change our place. Should I put money into it? Where should I spend the money? And then where are we going? So it's been hard. I think it's also exhausting. I don't think a lot of realtors talk about that. I'm a realist, and I think that it's exhausting, because sometimes the expectation of people, we call it like it's weighted. You don't want to be too pushy, like, well, you got to go up, because then they're like, oh, you're just trying to get me in this place. But then at the same time, they'll be like, well, why weren't we aggressive enough?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you have to have this balance.
And so you're working in really a dichotomy right now, where the properties that had been really your mainstay, bread and butter, moving, working with buyers and sellers, all of a sudden that just kind of hit a screeching halt. And so how did you find the opportunities, especially the outbound referrals, right? How did you reach out to your clients and say, hey, are you thinking about leaving the city? Are you thinking about doing something different?
Yeah, there was, I have marketing programs that are going out every month. I call them set them and forget them. And a lot of people do this as far as AdWorks, Sphere program, magazines that come every quarter. But then I have a core amount of people that, I get along with. I love them. Like, I don't look at the phone and like, oh, I got to talk to this person. Like, I want to talk to them. So here in Chicago, we have two things, or in the Midwest, that the winners, you get to a point, you're like, all right, I'm done with this. Okay. Now, it was 70 degrees yesterday here in Chicago, and we're in the middle of March. And this city is like the greatest place to be in the summer. So I think there's a lot of people, but we have also an aging population. I work with a lot of empty nesters, baby boomers, if you will. And I read, and I think this is where the Institute has helped me to keep in contact with different other, I always talk about my buddy Jim Wahlberg in California, but we talk about, and it gives me a level of knowledge that, hey, people are moving to these places. And there are people actually on the flip side where, yes, people are moving from Chicago and the Midwest to Florida and warmer climates. There are people in New York and the East Coast that are kind of sick of the high prices. And, New York is so much more dense than Chicago, so they're moving here. So I started to like, okay, you have to put yourself out there. So I started changing the marketing up a little. I have a campaign that goes to people like, hey, don't forget, I can help you in any area in the world. And it's true. We can through our networks. And saying, hey, if you're looking to either have, because families want to be closer. If you have any people in other areas, if you guys are moving, please call me first so I can put you in contact with someone who's going to take care of you like I take care of you. And these were just small conversations. And it puts it in their head. And I mean, I think we can bring this up. I referred you,
That's
a
right.
client, which is interesting. First referral that we've had, and I mean, we met, what was it, 8 years ago?
A long time
Um,
ago.
Yeah, and you just keep up, and you sent me a birthday card. So like it's top of the mind, and then, but from that, it was run referral. Their parents bought, an $800,000 place. So like even having those contacts, having in the back of mind, knowing that you have a referral business and you're there for people. But I also think that referrals, they go about it the wrong way. Because I'll have people that reach out to me all the time and like, hey, everybody's leaving Chicago. I'm here in Florida. Send me your referrals. Like right there, you've insulted where I live.
Wow.
And I think sometimes people don't get that. In every location, every neighborhood, it's all relative. Like I don't have earthquakes and forest fires, and California does, but I don't say California's a horrible place,
That's right. Yep.
And I think sometimes, especially our environment right now, you think one thing is the greatest and the other thing is bad. And not everybody is moving out of Chicago. Actually, downtown, we were one of the fastest urban markets growing in the census since 2011. Urban market. So having those relationships, like I'm here, if your clients are thinking about coming, not, hey, everybody's leaving because
Right. And, it makes me think about, a lot of the news media jumped on that, people are fleeing the cities,
yeah,
right? But in many cases, they were just taking a little hiatus and
yeah,
purchasing an additional property somewhere else, right? Because they needed
yep,
a little break. And that's something that struck me in looking at your website and checking
yeah,
out the about section right up front. I think the first sentence says Genuine Real Estate is a boutique residential consulting firm serving clients in downtown Chicago and their second home needs in other areas. I
yeah.
mean, bam, it's front and center.
And it was purposeful because unless you put it out there, people won't know. And I've had people that now, and it's not in our business, it could be like 1 to 2 people a year. It's a substantial amount of money, but people are like, hey, yeah, I'm actually thinking about another contact. Oh, great. She is in New Buffalo. I met her at Lil, and that's New Buffalo, Michigan. New Buffalo, Michigan is like the Hamptons for New York. Like
I
it's
see.
a harbor town. They call it harbor country. There's a lot of second homes. There's a lot of cottages. And during the lockdown, Michigan could not sell like for a month. And out of the pandemic, I started having people call me and like, hey, we're thinking about buying in Indiana. We're thinking about starting in Michigan. Well, I can send you over to my contact in Michigan. We talked and she was like, how much money is in Chicago? And people don't realize there are multiple Fortune 500 companies. There is a large amount, like I think Chicago's economy is as large as Poland. Like people forget that and we just are not flashy. And they have the money, but she said, I can't remember what the exact figure, but it was something like 20 houses had sold in 2019 for over $1 million. And she said, since the lockout, it was something like almost 100 in just that 2 months. If I had never been to Lil, if I'd never cultivated that, I may have never had anybody. And I got a couple referrals off of it.
Perfect. And we'll come back to that in just a
Yeah.
second. But I want to point out that you specifically cite South Florida
Mhm.
and the Caribbean. as outbound destinations, right? This is front forward on your website. So I know that you've got experience with developers in South Florida. You mentioned that. So how did you come to pick those locations out above others for the marketing focus, if you will?
Right. I think I take a perspective, like I'm a Buffini person. So they talk about being the mayor. There's no way I could know every amazing. Through when I was a senior vice president of sales for Related, they have a massive presence in South Florida. So I was going there more, like I was traveling there for business and consulting with them on some of their developments, Auberge in Fort Lauderdale, the W Hotel in Fort Lauderdale. But then from that gave me a base of other agents. And the digital partner that I work with is Miami. So knowing about Uno Residences, which is in Miami, Aston Martin, some of these, I'm not like on the sales team, but I have more information. I always bring this up because I'm a very visual person, and maybe you'll see. I have the Aston Martin, I have the Four Seasons, and I have Una, all from South Florida. So when I come in, again, it's just a reminder, hey, maybe there's someone down there. And then the Caribbean, that came from, I try to be a member of different networks. I'm in Realm Global, which is an awesome organization, and I'm part of Leverage Global. And again, cultivating those different relationships. There are agents that are representing Turks and Caicos, and representing Costa Rica. And just having that information, it also gives you something to talk to your clients about.
Absolutely.
Instead of like, how's the market? Oh my God, I was just talking to this agent down in Turks and Caicos. And what? What are you talking about? Like, you do more than, yeah. Oh yeah. I didn't know. If you have anybody that ever, and I've had clients that have bought partial share, like you can buy partial share.
Sure.
They don't. There's an Airbnb in Miami, Lofty. So some of them, because I work with a lot of physicians, they have money that they want to invest, and those markets give different investment opportunities, because you can have, like down in Florida, you can have timeshares, you can have Airbnbs, you could rent your place out. We don't really have that market. Nobody's like, hey, I want to go and spend a week in December in Chicago, or
right. Everybody would be fighting for that particular time slot.
Yeah, and my business partner, she's originally from Toronto, and she has so there's a lot of people from Toronto going down to those areas. So I'm not saying it's a massive amount of business, but those locations, and I think this is good for anybody to know in our business, there's so much competition in South Florida. There's so much, they need exposure, that they will pay you 3%, sometimes 6% referral for a referral.
Yeah.
Like not 30% of the 6%, like 6%.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying every development. So if you sell one property, it's like the equivalent here of selling 5 to 10,
Sure. And
so,
interestingly, I'm surprised to hear that there's such a flow to South Florida, but it makes sense that it's from a different perspective, because I'll tell you, I'm with your colleague in Michigan to say, where is all this Chicago money coming from? Because I can't tell you, even your referrals in the last year, plus at least 6 other referrals of folks that are coming from Chicago and Chicagoland. It's remarkable. So, and I'm just, for our audience, I'm on the west coast of Florida, so it's a very, very different experience than South Florida and the Miami and that greater area there.
I think for a large city, Chicago has almost 3 million people downtown. In the greater Chicago, there's 9 million. And people don't really fully understand that. And I think, again, it's the Midwest. We probably could do more with marketing, I think. But there are massive companies up here, John Deere, Walgreens, State Farm, like a lot of Fortune 500 companies, but also, we have the Chicago Board of Trade up here. If you look at it, even from a sports perspective, I mean, sports teams now are worth billions of dollars. We have 6. There's very few cities that have 1. So I think that there's a lot of money here. And comparatively, I'm always like, it boggles my mind sometimes when I talk to people in South Florida, in Florida in general, in New York, Seattle, Portland. We have higher taxes, but our prices for houses, it like pales in comparison to what you get. So I think a lot of the people that move to these locations in Florida, warmer climates, they're done with the winter. Okay. Like
Right.
I grew up in Michigan. It doesn't bother me. I think it's mindset, but I think once you start getting to a certain age, I'm probably getting there. I'm 50, but you don't want to shovel anymore. You don't want to, but you've been saving up money because now you own your home, most likely, because the prices aren't as high. And you're going to sell that. That's going to be cash that you can stick into an investment property that down in Florida, the property taxes. So like the monthly costs are so much lower because now you don't have a mortgage. You hardly have any property taxes, So there's different things. And there's just, I just think it's a Midwest thing. People sock
Yeah.
away money here.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's a good thing to know too, how to sell. Saying to somebody, like I always joke with some of the agents from Florida, saying like it's super sunny and like hot, sexy. Like you don't think of hot and sexy when you think of Chicago, but saying that there are great restaurants, because we take for granted we have amazing restaurants.
Sure.
But you can golf. It's 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes to golf. Here, it's an hour to get to golf. Like that's the way, it's a whole event to get to golf. So showing the conveniences of where you live in those areas.
Sure. And as we say in the Institute, it's all about the lifestyle and
Right.
and those trigger points. So
And
I
the
see
convenience
exactly.
of it. Yeah, it's totally, yeah.
It sure is. So you mentioned a couple of resources that that you use for building your network, and I want to explore that just a little bit more. So how do you build your network and build your team of referral partners
Yeah. How do you do it?
around the
Yeah.
globe?
Well, I think that you have to, as much money as people spend going out to dinner and things, if you really equate, we can take a trip for a few $100s, and now we can now with the pandemic. So this is something that I used to do all the time. I made a point to travel at least 3-4 times a year to the South, to South Florida, to New York, to these different locations, to California, and see some of my contacts out there. So I was looking at traveling as a marketing expense, just like you would spend on magazines, just like you spend on your internet, just you spend on your leads. I think, in my opinion, it's a much better return on investment. Me going to see someone personally and building up that relationship and having information about that market, and people seeing it, and me giving, because people want to know, what's the market like down there? Oh, well, I have an agent down there, but I've traveled down there a couple of times this year. Really? So
It's a hands-on approach.
yeah, and it's intentional and it's fun
Of
because,
course it is.
we need write-offs.
So
Yeah.
you also you make it a point to attend certain conferences, whether it's industry or other broad-minded things.
Well,
What
I
are your
have
must
goals.
goes?
Yeah, I have goals. Two of them are going to Leaders in Luxury, which is the Institute for Luxury Home Marketing, yearly conference that I will say changed my life. I can go into that in a second. And then I try and pick, I've gone to Inman in New York. I've gone to it in San Francisco. Patrick Lilly, I've been to his conference one time in Denver. Realm Global is, so I try and go to different, because I also think it helps. Going to these conferences, you're meeting other agents that don't look at you as a competition, but they can be a referral source, and they'll give you the tricks of the trade. They'll give you someone you can talk to and say like, hey, I have this listing, or I have obviously someone referring. So a lot of it became intentional, that, okay, you're looking at the beginning of the year, you're looking at the next 5, you want to get to a certain place, you have to go to these conferences. Look at any other industry. I mean, I've been in multiple. They have conferences all the time.
That's right.
How many of our clients do we talk to? Oh yeah, I'm going to this medical conference. Oh, I'm going to, they are constantly, what is it, Franklin Covey, like sharpening the saw.
That's right.
You have to, and I think it also gets us, our market. Sometimes you need to be around other people where you can let loose and talk about these crazy, not only agents in your market or like clients or just the trials and tribulations.
Sure.
And you have
As the
people
market
around you,
evolves.
yeah, at your level that
Sure.
understand what you're
So
talking about.
yeah. So the peers that are at your professional level, I think
Yeah.
is where you're going. And so that makes me ask, um, when you choose a referral partner, what do you expect of them? What is your expectation of the level of service, communication back to you? What are your benchmark standards there?
So my benchmark standards are I like referral partners that are going to work with the buyers themselves. Like when I
Mm,
referred the buyers to you, I knew that they were going to be working with Tami. Maybe, showing here or there, they might be going with an agent. We can't be all places all the time. But I have had referral partners that I've sent and they give it down the chain to someone who is not at our level of negotiation. And it hurts my reputation
sure.
because these people I care about, I sent them, and I actually had it backfire with my own family. My sister-in-law passed off to somebody. She was losing deal after deal in Portland. Now it's a hard market. And she called me and they were just talking. They weren't, when I said, well, did you try these things in the negotiation? Do you try that? I know it's a different market, but they're like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, well, and I'm not even hiding the name. I don't remember the name of the agent. I probably blacked it out. But let's say it was Stephanie that I called her and I said, hey, you're losing out. And she's like, what are you talking about? She had passed off to one of our agents. She wasn't talking to my client.
Oh, wow.
And when I talked to my sister-in-law, that's when, again, having those conversations in the relationship, I was able to find out the wrinkles in the process. So I find that I like people that are, listen, we build up and we spend tons of time with these clients. And it used to be like kind of a kick in the gut when they leave. You're like, what? You're leaving me? But
Sure.
you want them to be taken care of just like you take care of. So I look at that. I don't look at necessarily the brokerage they're with because I personally, again, these are all my own opinions. People can be different. There are so many different brokerages. It comes down to the individual. So I'm not going to discriminate. I don't like look at it like, oh, they're with that brokerage. If I know the individual and I know that they're going to take care of them, that's the biggest thing to me. Because once, and you said level of what I expect that I don't get a call where they're mad, where they're disappointed. That's why I
Yeah.
level of expectation.
Yeah.
I think it's awesome when people, you called me, this is a good example, and just, hey, this was what happened. This was, oh, that's awesome. Great. It's good to talk to you. We ended up talking for like 2 hours, but,
Right.
but I think that that's my level of expectation. I say to people, even my lenders that I work with, the inspectors, I refer you because I don't need calls. We have
Yeah.
enough calls. We have enough craziness. I want them to be taken care of. As soon as I get a call that you are not taking care of them, you don't get any more referrals. Because like, I just don't have time. Not like I just don't want to deal with it. I don't want to hear the negativity. So
Yeah,
that's what
so
I kind of look at.
it's kind of like the reviews. You don't want a negative review, but sometimes even silence is golden, right? Everything was happy and it went right
Right.
along. Now,
Well, and I grew up
also,
in a big family. So if we didn't hear anything, it meant it was okay.
right, exactly.
So
But then when you refer your favorite clients, like you did, the referral you sent to me was personal friends, then
yeah,
you get all the more reason to then take a trip to come visit them in sunny Florida
exactly.
and reconnect with me. So it's a win-win-win-win. I think it's
Right.
the long tail, I think,
Yeah, and I think
is
that,
what we're talking about.
we've heard it, and whoever coined it, but like, clients for a lifetime. That
Yeah,
you can go to these different locations. It
yeah,
doesn't stop if they're not,
that's right. That's right.
um, and I think that people lose out if they
Yeah.
are not even just opening themselves up to these referral. income, but also these opportunities to, experience and know these other markets.
Yeah. Well, talking about opportunities. So first, I want to know what's on your bucket list for the next 12 months.
Okay. Okay, I can just read them off. So my personal opinion, I always say that because I just think everybody has their own. I make it a goal of how much I want to donate in dollars to the charities I work with. I think you get so much out, and I've learned also at Lil, if you want to look at it again as intentional, many of the people that are involved with charities, they're wealthy individuals. You know, you don't go into the charity asking for referrals, but you're going to be around a network of people. And it just makes me feel good. I've done, I mean, I think it's fun. Every market's different. I've done hundreds of millions of dollars in, I don't know, 500 plus, contracts, individuals, whatever. And sometimes it can become monotonous. And I needed a driving force. Like, why am I doing this? And it makes me have just a little on those hard nights, or like you're up or you're frustrated, or you have a client that, okay, that's okay, because I'm going to help, provide water for so many people through the charity Give Back Homes. I'm going to make a house in, Mexico for somebody. And here I do Lurie Children's because my wife works in the cardiology. I'm going to help some doctor or nurse in some small way because a pediatric hospital doesn't have a lot of. So every deal that I do, something's going for them. So that's a big deal. That's a big deal. I always try and do 2 conferences every year. That's always a must.
Mm-hmm.
I've changed my focus from, I think a lot of people do this, like, I want to sell so many millions. Okay. To our clients, that means nothing. Yeah, like they don't have any equate. They see, but I just say I want to try to help every year 50 people. And that could be rental, that could be investment, that could be referral. It's usually predominantly buyers and sellers in my own market. But I just want to help them, and that way it's, again, going back to, okay, I'm helping these people, not I'm getting $12,000 commission. The money will come.
Right.
Always.
Yeah.
I
think
think
we share that philosophy.
Yeah. And I just, so and then what else have we got here? I want to complete my master's in negotiation from Harvard. It's another class because I think it's also helpful. I learned that from Don Thomas in California. So, I do a good job of taking things from different people. And some of them are life. I'd love to own a property in Belize. I'd like to build a couple properties here in Chicago. These are kind of bigger things.
Mm-hmm.
And then I try and have 3 consulting clients every year. So that's a portion of my business that I just really love. It's almost like white label. A lot of brokers get these opportunities to have developments, but they don't have any background in developments. So I don't have to be on the sales team. I don't need to have my face everywhere. Right. But if I can help in the background, I can make money off of that. They pay good retainers and weekly fees. So
sure,
it's another area of business. Yeah.
Well, your ability to point out your plan, your goals reminds me of why you were recognized by the Institute for the Outstanding Achievement Award a few years back. You were at a place that you were rebuilding your brand, who you were, what you wanted to do.
Oh, I was at a very low.
And so just as we wrap up, I just wonder if there's any words of advice, words of wisdom that you can share with anyone in the audience who's thinking, gosh, I need to get some refocus. I need to work on a new avenue. Maybe they want to really build their referral network or whatever. So give us a few words on that.
I could go on this for hours, but
I know you can.
I would say make it a point to go to a conference this year. I don't really necessarily care what it is, but you need to raise your level of knowledge. You need to look at it as you are a professional in an industry. Okay. And more so looking at it as I'm a real estate professional that has a realtor license, but I'm a professional. So I need negotiation skills. I need different contacts, and I need to be in a place. It was scary my first level that I went to. I mean, I had sold some pretty big projects, but not at the level of some of the people. But you need, if you're going to get to that level, you need to be around those people to see what they do. So get out of your comfort zone. It may be scary. Go to those conferences. And, I think put yourself out there as far as if you're new in the industry, pay for someone to have breakfast or lunch. Hey, I just want to pick your brain. Hey, I will do anything that you want. The first development I did, I said, give me the worst one you have. And I started laughing because that was in one of my previous jobs. You want the hardest one, because if you do the hardest one, they kept giving me the other developments. If you can sell
That's
that
right.
hunk of dirt,
That's right.
But I didn't say to them, hey, I want to sell developments. Hey, I want to make tons of money. The other thing, lastly, I'll say, don't say that you want to be a luxury agent. I want to work with the affluent. I want to be a higher level of agent. Saying luxury just makes you sound like, hey, I want big listings. I want to make lots of money. But the professionalism is actually what gets you to that tier. And surround yourself, get more knowledge, go to these conferences. And there's so many different avenues, like even referrals. But you're not going to build them up sitting in your own territory, just knowing
Sure. Yeah.
because there's what's the TV personality. I don't know. He's in one of those cell whatever. I can't stand him on HGTV. But there is, myself. I am getting my license in Florida, having an office down in Florida, just so I understand the market. But it's becoming, you're not just an agent in your city. You are a global real estate professional that I can work with you. I could connect you with so many people. I am your conduit. Come to me for not only plumbers, but if you're moving, you want a second home, I got you covered. Here, come to me. There's so much money out there you can make. So
That's fantastic.
hopefully that helps.
Patrick, we want to commend you for the work that you've put in, and really thank you for the generosity of your time
Yep.
and your talent to share with our audience. And I can't wait to see you in person again. And I can't wait
Excited.
to help more of your Chicagoans that are Florida bound on my side of the state. But
Yeah.
for now, I want to thank you and look forward to seeing you.
Thanks so much for having me, Tami. It's always a pleasure.